1911, the United States government did something it had never done before. It looked at a single company, one company, and declared it too powerful to exist. They tore it apart, piece by piece, splitting it into 34 separate businesses. It was the most dramatic corporate destruction in American history. And the man who owned it? He got richer. That man was John D. Rockefeller. And what he built wasn't just a business. It was a blueprint. 6 precise moves that turned a broken, chaotic industry into the world's first billion-dollar empire. By the time this video ends, you will understand those 6 moves, exactly how he executed each one, and exactly why they worked. And the most shocking part, the government destroying his empire was actually the final move in his plan. Stay with me. Before we start, if you're new here, this channel is dedicated to breaking down exactly how great companies rise and succeed. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's next. And if this video gives you value, a like takes 2 seconds, and it genuinely helps more than you know. Now, let's get into it. Move number 1, spot the chaos. 1859, Western Pennsylvania. A man drilling for salt strikes something dark, thick, and foul-smelling at 69 feet. He doesn't know it yet, but he's just ignited the biggest industrial explosion in American history. Within weeks, thousands of men poured into the region. Wooden derricks shot up overnight. Fortunes were made in a day and lost the next. The price of crude oil swung violently. One week, it was $10 a barrel. The next, 10 cents. Men were pumping so much oil, they had nowhere to store it. They let it run into the rivers. The industry was in complete, total chaos. Most serious businessmen looked at this madness and stayed away. John D. Rockefeller looked at it and saw something else entirely. He was barely 20 years old, a bookkeeper in Cleveland, meticulous, quiet, obsessed with numbers. His partner Maurice Clark warned him that this oil business is chaos, and it's a gamble. People will always need to eat, and advised him to stick with what they were doing. Rockefeller's response was quiet, calm, and absolute, and that people will always need to see in the dark, and oil is the light. Chaotic industries are not problems. They are opportunities disguised as disasters. Where everyone else sees risk, the builder sees a vacuum. The more broken the industry, the bigger the prize for whoever brings order to it. By 1863, Rockefeller and Clark had partnered with chemist Samuel Andrews and built their first refinery in Cleveland. But Rockefeller's ambition was already beyond the partnership. 2 years later, the two men were at war over its direction. They agreed to a private auction. Whoever bid highest would take the refinery. The bidding opened at $2,000, then $5,000, then $10,000. Clark pushed to $50,000. The room fell silent. Then Rockefeller said, $72,500. Clark stared, then quietly said, "The business is yours." Rockefeller shook his hand, walked out of the room, and later wrote in his diary, "That was the day that determined my career. He was right." Move number 2, cut costs deeper than anyone thought possible. Now Rockefeller stood alone with his refinery, and the first thing he did was study waste. At the time, refiners wanted only one thing from crude oil: kerosene for lamps. Everything else, gasoline, naphtha, paraffin, tar, was pumped straight into the river. They were discarding half the barrel every single day. Rockefeller looked at that river and saw money disappearing. Together with Andrews, he found commercial uses for every byproduct: lubricating oil, paraffin wax, petroleum jelly. Nothing was thrown away. But he didn't stop there. He bought his own forests to produce his own timber to make his own barrels. He built his own kilns to dry the wood. He manufactured his own sulfuric acid for refining. He bought his own tank cars, He built his own warehouses. Every middleman he eliminated, every cost he removed from the chain, gave him a price advantage his competitors simply could not match. He could sell his oil cheaper than anyone and still generate more profit than all of them. By January 10, 1870, Rockefeller incorporated the Standard Oil Company of Ohio. He was 30 years old, and he already owned the largest refinery in Cleveland, the oil capital of the world. Most men would have stopped and enjoyed that. Rockefeller looked up at the smoky skyline and saw hundreds of small, inefficient refineries still fighting for scraps. They weren't rivals to be respected. They were disorder to be organized. Move number 3, control the choke point, not the product. Here is where Rockefeller's thinking became truly dangerous. While every other refiner obsessed over their product, better oil, cheaper process, faster output, Rockefeller asked a different question entirely. What does every single company in this industry need no matter what? In 1870, there were no oil pipelines. Every barrel in America traveled by rail, and the railroad industry was in crisis. Companies were slashing rates desperately, undercutting each other to stay alive. Rockefeller walked into the offices of the railroad executives with a proposition no one in the industry had ever been able to make. He said, "Gentlemen, I can guarantee you 60 carloads of oil every single day, rain or shine, year-round. No other refiner in the country can offer you that." The railroad men leaned forward, and in exchange for that guarantee, Rockefeller asked for one thing: a secret rebate on every barrel he shipped. But then he negotiated something even more lethal. It was called the drawback. Every time a competitor shipped a barrel of oil on any railroad, the railroad would take a cut of that competitor's freight fee and hand it directly to Rockefeller. Let that sink in. His rivals were literally funding him every time they tried to compete. This arrangement, formalized through a vehicle called the South Improvement Company in early 1872, also gave Rockefeller something priceless: intelligence. The railroads sent him detailed reports on every competitor, where they were shipping, who they were selling to, and at what price. Armed with those numbers, Rockefeller began his campaign. He would invite a competitor to his office at 26 Broadway, calm as a deacon, and present a simple choice. "You see the rates, friend. I am being paid for every barrel you ship. If you stay in the game, you will go bankrupt. Sell to me now for Standard Oil stock or cash, or you will be crushed. Your choice." Between February and March of 1872, what historians call the Cleveland Massacre, 22 of the 26 refineries in Cleveland surrendered to Standard Oil in less than 90 days. When the South Improvement Company was exposed and the Pennsylvania legislature revoked its charter under public pressure, people cheered. They thought they had won. They were wrong. By the time the South Improvement Company was canceled, Rockefeller already owned Cleveland. The choke point had done its work. Move number 4. Turn your customers into dependents. By 1879, Standard Oil controlled approximately 90% of U.S. oil refining capacity. Rockefeller had conquered America's domestic market, and then he ran into a wall, a market with limits. He needed a new frontier. And he found one, not on a map of oil fields, but on a map of the world's darkness. In Asia, in China, in the developing world, hundreds of millions of people still lived with no light after sunset, no kerosene, no lamps, no habit of buying oil at all. They were not yet customers. Most businessmen would call that a problem. Rockefeller called it a blank market waiting to be engineered. His approach was precise and calculated. Standard Oil flooded Asian markets with iconic blue 5-gallon kerosene tins, priced so aggressively that local alternatives couldn't compete. Then, in China specifically, Standard Oil distributed millions of small kerosene lamps for free. This was not charity. This was market architecture. Once a household owned a Standard Oil lamp, it needed fuel to run it. Every night, forever. And the only reliable source of that fuel was Standard Oil. He didn't sell oil to an existing market. He manufactured the need, then positioned himself as the only supplier. The results were staggering. Standard Oil drove the global price of kerosene from 30 cents a gallon to just 8 cents, making light affordable for the first time in human history for hundreds of millions of people. And Rockefeller's revenues from international markets exploded as a result. Move number 5, build a structure that hides your power. By 1879, Rockefeller sat atop 90% of America's refining capacity. But he had a structural problem no one could see from the outside. Standard Oil was now a sprawling web of dozens of companies operating across multiple states. And under American law at the time, a corporation in Ohio could not legally own stock in a company in Pennsylvania or New York. His empire was held together by handshakes and gentlemen's agreements. Fragile, exposed. So Rockefeller's lawyers invented something the world had never seen before. On January 2, 1882, Rockefeller and 8 associates signed a secret document. They transferred the stock of 41 different companies into a single controlling entity managed by 9 trustees. It became known simply as the Trust. The genius was in its invisibility. If a government regulator asked who owned a refinery in New York, the paper trail dissolved into a maze that led nowhere. As journalist Ida Tarbell would later write after 2 years of investigation, you could argue its existence from its effects, but you could not prove it. From his office at 26 Broadway in Manhattan, known internally as the Temple, Rockefeller was no longer just running an oil company. He was operating an invisible institution. Move number 6, design the system. So even losing is winning. Ida Tarbell spent 2 years dismantling Standard Oil on paper. She hunted down former employees, unearthed buried railroad contracts, and mapped every rebate, drawback, and spy network. In 1904, her book, The History of the Standard Oil Company, became the most dangerous book in America. It gave the public a face to hate, and it handed President Theodore Roosevelt the ammunition he needed. Roosevelt launched a full antitrust investigation. It wound through the courts for nearly a decade, and on May 15, 1911, the U.S. Supreme Court delivered its verdict. Standard Oil was an illegal monopoly in restraint of trade. The empire must be dismantled. The trust was shattered into 34 separate companies. The world assumed Rockefeller had lost. He was 72 years old, a lifetime of work, destroyed by a court order. Here is what actually happened. Rockefeller never surrendered his shares. He simply saw his ownership distributed across 34 newly independent companies, each now free from the legal restrictions of the consolidated trust. Each able to expand, borrow, and grow in ways the trust could never have done. The market recognized the value immediately. Stock prices across all 34 successor companies surged. Standard Oil of New Jersey became ExxonMobil. Standard Oil of New York became Mobil. Standard Oil of California became Chevron. Standard Oil of Indiana became Amoco. The list goes on. By 1916, as the world pivoted from kerosene lamps to the gasoline-powered automobile, the combined value of Rockefeller's holdings across those 34 companies crossed $1 billion, which made John D. Rockefeller become the world's first billionaire, not despite the government destroying his empire, but in part because of it. Spot the chaos in a broken industry. Cut costs until no competitor can keep up. Seize the choke point everyone depends on. Create a market and become its only supplier. Hide your power behind invisible structures. And build so well, so deeply, that even losing becomes another form of winning. Rockefeller didn't become the world's first billionaire by working harder than everyone else. He did it by thinking at a level no one around him could see. The oil wells made fortunes. The blueprint made history. Now here is a question for you. Which move do you think was Rockefeller's most decisive? Was it seizing control of the railroads? Engineering the trust so no regulator could touch him? Or the fact that even the government's final blow made him richer? Drop your answer in the comments. I am reading every single one. If this breakdown gave you value, like this video. It helps this channel reach more people who want to understand how great companies and empires are actually built. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. We break down the business moves behind the most powerful companies in history. Hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.